Welcome to The Explainer. Okay, have you ever watched a lie travel halfway around the world before the truth even had a chance to lace up its boots? It's wild. Today, we're unpacking a truly fascinating story from the 2026 World Cup. And sure, it's a story about sports, but honestly, it's more of a masterclass in how a single, twisted quote can just manufacture a massive, global firestorm. Literally days before a high-stakes group stage match between Spain and Saudi Arabia, this explosive narrative completely hijacked the headlines and the tournament itself. Let's look at how the digital age nearly derailed a major international event.
So, between June 19th and 20th, 2026, social media absolutely exploded with this statement, supposedly from Spain's star midfielder Dani Olmo. And fans weren't just reading it, right? They were reacting with blistering speed and intense anger. The internet was practically boiling over. Saudi fans saw this and, understandably, demanded immediate vengeance for what felt like a deeply personal, arrogant insult thrown right at their national pride on the world's biggest stage. To the Saudi supporters, this wasn't just typical pre-game trash talk. No way. It was seen as a blatant lack of respect, a calculated attempt to publicly belittle the Green Falcons right before kickoff. Media outlets amplified the fury, the digital platforms became a massive echo chamber, and the narrative was suddenly set in stone. Spain was arrogant, and Saudi Arabia had to make them pay.
Okay, let's dive into this. Section 1. The viral outrage. A nation demands vengeance.
Moving to Section 2, what Olmo actually said, checking the primary source.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that right as the digital pitchforks were being raised and the anger was hitting a fever pitch, something started to feel just a little bit off. If you step back from the timeline for a second and looked closely at where this controversy originated, the whole foundation of the outrage started to crack. It forces us to ask a really simple but surprisingly rare question these days: what did the player actually say? We need to put on our investigative hats, tune out the noise, and check the primary source. On the left, you've got the viral monster that social media created, the whole arrogant boast about a maximum number of goals. But on the right, that's the reality. The actual interview was with the Catalan newspaper Sport, and when you read the transcript, the insult literally isn't there. Olmo was actually just talking about his own team's internal struggles. He said they needed to, quote, try to score more than one goal against Saudi Arabia and win. To really get why Olmo's quote was totally innocent, we just need to look at the context of Spain's previous match. They had just dragged themselves through a deeply frustrating 0-0 draw against Cape Verde. I mean, look at these stats. Spain dominated with an overwhelming 74% possession and fired off 27 shots, 27, but they walked away with 0 goals. Olmo wasn't insulting Saudi Arabia's defense. He was venting frustration with Spain's own lack of finishing. He was publicly pleading for his squad to show some boldness and actually capitalize on their chances. But somehow, a plea for self-improvement got completely twisted into a malicious attack.
Section 3. The pressure builds, responding to a ghost.
Unfortunately, the truth was really struggling to keep up with the lie here. The unstoppable force of the social media algorithm had already collided head-on with the players. The Saudi camp, who were prepping for one of the biggest games of their lives, suddenly found themselves backed into a corner. They weren't just playing the Spanish national team anymore. They were being forced to respond to a manufactured narrative, a complete ghost built out of digital translation errors and engagement farming. Take Mohamed Abu Al-Shamat, for example. He maintained this incredibly measured and disciplined approach. He basically refused to take the bait, stating clearly they wouldn't be distracted by mere talk and that the pitch was where results count. Honestly, it's a huge testament to the mental fortitude you need at the World Cup, when the whole globe is trying to goad you into a reaction.
And this defensive discipline? It was a totally unified front. Abdullah Al-Hamdan echoed the exact same sentiment, promising that their true response would come on the field. Even the Saudi coach, Georgios Danis, used his pre-match presser to deliberately bring the temperature down, explicitly telling reporters that his squad was completely unconcerned with off-field noise. They were drawing a line in the sand, trusting that their tactical plan would speak way louder than fake internet rumors.
Let's move forward and see how this builds in Section 4, Reality on the Pitch. June 21, 2026, Atlanta.
Because eventually all the talking, whether it's real or fake, has to stop, right? The location is the spectacular Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. The Green Falcons walked into a stadium that was absolutely vibrating with the electric energy of this controversy. But the second the referee blew that whistle, all those digital illusions evaporated and the unforgiving on-field reality finally took over. And that reality was swift and it was brutal.
Spain's coach had admitted his team felt stung by the criticism of their previous draw, and they came out playing with this frightening, relentless intensity. I mean, the timeline of destruction happened in the blink of an eye. In just the 11th minute, 18-year-old sensation Lamine Yamal slid one in at the far post. 10 minutes later, Mikel Oyarzabal found the net, and then he did it again just 3 minutes after that. Before the players even stopped for the first-half hydration break, Spain had completely dismantled the Saudi defense to make it 3-0.
And this brilliantly illustrates the whole story. It presents the cold, hard, statistical truth of the match. Spain held the ball for 71% of the game. They dictated the tempo, they completely controlled the space, and they basically starved the Saudi players of any opportunity to build momentum. It was a tactical suffocating of a team that had stepped onto the pitch burdened by an incredibly heavy manufactured narrative.
Which brings us to this number right here. 0. A big, fat 0. This represents the total number of shots on goal that Saudi Arabia managed throughout the entire match. That fierce response on the field the Saudi players had promised in their press conferences, the vengeance demanded by millions of fans online, it just never materialized. They were fundamentally outclassed by a Spanish team that just ignored the internet noise and focused entirely on finishing their chances.
Section 5. Anatomy of a lie, when algorithms manufacture outrage.
So the crucial point is, let's zoom out from the soccer pitch for a second. Because while this is absolutely a story about a World Cup match, it is really a modern cautionary tale about media, truth, and exactly how we consume information today. What happened to Dani Olmo and the Saudi national team wasn't some isolated incident of sports banter gone wrong. No, it is a perfectly preserved specimen of how our modern information ecosystem actually operates when the guardrails come off. The rapid pathology of a fake news cycle is captured right here in these 3 steps. Step 1. A completely innocent primary source quote is twisted in translation or just deliberately taken out of context. Step 2. Social media algorithms, which, let's be honest, crave anger and engagement above everything else, pour gasoline on the fire. And step 3. Before anyone can even fact-check it, the false narrative hardens into an undeniable fact for millions of people. In this desperate rush to find a villain, an innocent player was attacked for words he never even spoke.
Which leaves us with this final thought. Dani Olmo literally never insulted anyone, yet for days he was public enemy number 1. The truth eventually emerged from the archives of a Catalan newspaper, but the damage to the discourse was already done. So I leave you with this question to chew on. In a world where anger travels so much faster than facts, who's really to blame when things go wrong? Is it the media that twists the words, the algorithm that profits from the outrage, or us, the users, who are so quick to believe the worst without checking the transcript? Think about that the next time your feed tells you to be angry. Thank you for joining me on this explainer, and we will see you next time.